Welcome to the Awaken Man podcast.
Welcome.
Today's a good one. Today is a good one. I actually want to share to our listeners. Before we get going, I was talking about this with Pete before. I've had a newborn in the house, and I've just felt the last couple of days has been such a big shift for me, trying to get some kind of normality. And actually during the last couple of days, like during the last 7 days, I think I've had 3 crucial conversations. Which is the topic of today's podcast, is like how to have hard conversations.
That's strong, having difficult conversations. I presume with your missus.
All three.
Yeah. So that's strong, having crucial conversations when said missus has just given birth.
You almost like try to make me out to be some sort of villain here.
No, absolutely not. It's like that's a strong point, right? Because most of our guys be like, "Nah, I am not having a chat with her now. I'll wait. I'll leave it for a couple of weeks."
Yeah, you're right. Actually, we were talking on the Awaken Man program yesterday about the difference between victim and owner. And if you want to be an owner in your life, you have to make the time instead of waiting for the time to be right. If you want to be a victim of circumstance, you wait for the right circumstance. If you want to be an owner in your life, you create the right circumstance. Yeah, I'm actually going to share the conversation because I think I want to just be from a stance of transparency. We obviously had the baby last Tuesday. Amazing. Really, really excited. It's a beautiful experience having a baby. And because obviously Poppy being pregnant, I've been doing little bits, and there's been things that I have actually swept under the rug and left. And we'll talk about this in a second when we go through this. But I got to Sunday morning and she said something, and I just snapped at her, really like out of character for me. It wasn't nasty. I just like snapped back, like, stop telling me what to do. And I didn't say it in that tone. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh. And it created this space between us that's like really uncomfortable space. You have it with your partner when you go for breakfast and you don't really want to chat about anything. And I just sat on it. I wanted to resolve it that day. And I said, hey, I'm going to go for a cycle. I'm off for a cycle. Effie went for a sleep. And as I was on the cycle, I was willing for some people to pull out in front of me, and I was getting so triggered by people who weren't getting out of the way as I was cycling past them. I was like the angriest cycle of my life. And I realized something when I got home. I came home and I said to Poppy, I was like, I have so much anger inside. I've got so much anger going on inside, and I want to share something with you. I really need to have this conversation. And then we got into a hard conversation about how, since the baby was born, because Poppy's trying to control in order to create safety and some kind of normality in the house, she's telling me what to do. She's been very instructional with the baby and Effie as well. Like, don't do that. Like, micromanaging me. And I was just like, and so we just sat down. I challenged her hard on that, and I shared with her that we were both on the same team, and just because we don't parent in the same way doesn't mean either of us is wrong. And we created a really good step-by-step plan on ways to have better communication afterwards. So we're going to go into some scripting on today's podcast, but it was a hard conversation. It was high stakes, different opinions, high emotions. She cried, I held space, and do you know what? We both felt 1,000 times better after that conversation, like 1,000 times. So yeah, I text Pete in the group actually saying, yeah, I just had a meaningful conversation, and it moves you. These things move you. And then a lot of men are joining our program at the moment, and they are talking about like the inability to have hard conversations. And so we felt it was really pertinent to do this podcast, to share this conversation with you, because both of us are in the trenches with this. We are building a movement, and inevitably hard conversations are going to come up. These kind of conversations are going to come up. So
it is. The more I like, in my experience with this, is like the more growth that you have, and the more that you're willing to put yourself out there and to become a better man, to push the capabilities of your business, to strive to reach like your highest potential. You have to have more and more of these crucial conversations, more and more of them like come up, and then you force yourself to have them because you know it's going to move the needle.
Yeah. And this is something that I've realized personally, is the lag time between feeling and experiencing these kind of problems and discussing it is really one of the biggest barometers for the health of my relationships. So like I've got a quick story about an employee I used to have, and I realized that the relationship wasn't good probably like 6 months before the relationship ended. But I didn't do anything about it. I was so scared of having the conversation that was like, hey, listen, I don't think you're a great fit for this organization anymore. There was so much problems that caused. It was like, it caused problems with clients. It caused problems with other staff. Like, other staff wouldn't work with this person in the room. There was a really, really negative energy. They weren't happy in the organization. The client, this reflected, and it was so, but I didn't have the conversation. And I was 25 at the time. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm just going to challenge you. And as you're listening in, think about a hard conversation that you need to have. And I'm going to invite you to think that, and use this podcast as a warm-up, because you're going to go and have it today. Honestly, I think this could be one of the most beneficial podcasts you listen to all year if you use it as it's intended. This is not information. This is about transformation. This is about listening in to what we talk about today and then moving into action, where you say, do you know what? This conversation has needed to be had. I'm going to wade into it, and it's not going to be perfect, but having listened to this 45 minutes or whatever we share today, could be longer because there's a lot of good quality stuff, is that I'm going to go and have it. Now, there's a really good film, probably one of my favorite films, called We Bought a Zoo. Have you seen it, Pete?
No, I've not seen that, no.
Pete, come on.
Oh, shaking the head.
I'm just so disappointed in you right now.
Call yourself an awakened man.
Call yourself a personal development coach, and you haven't seen the Matt Damon film We Bought a Zoo. The reason I'm saying that, it's a really lovely family film, so Denise will actually appreciate it because it's one you can both watch together.
It's not gangsters and mafias and shoot 'em ups.
No. Pete was telling me the other day how him and Denise sit down to watch a film, and she has to watch the mafia films, and I have to watch rom-coms. It's just like. But yeah, so in We Bought a Zoo, I'm not going to give away obviously the whole plot. It's a great film, but there's a moment in it where Matt Damon is explaining to his children how he met his wife, and he said, in life you just need this ability to have 20 seconds of just blistering incredible confidence. I can't remember the actual words he uses, like just 20 seconds of confidence or courage. I can't remember exactly what it is, and this, I feel, is exactly the right framing for how to have a crucial conversation. It's the 20 seconds where you say to your boss, your partner, your business partner, the words, hey, I need to share something with you. There's something I feel that we need to have a conversation about. And when you say those words, it's paving the way into the conversation that is going to be high stakes, high emotions, mixed opinions. And that is I've studied crucial conversations. I've been on the course. I've read the book. I've had crucial conversations. I've looked at the scaffolding. I've done various permutations with different ways of learning it. But that's the linchpin moment, that hard conversation moment. And it's something actually that I think it's Kerry Patterson. So Kerry Patterson and Joseph Granny wrote Crucial Conversations and Crucial Confrontations. They're great books. I recommend you go and read them. But honestly, the thing that I learned most from reading and listening to them is that inevitably what we do as a company is we help men create impossible goals. And it is absolutely, you cannot achieve impossible goals without having crucial conversations. It's almost like a real surefire way to measure your success is the number of crucial conversations you're having to have. And so the best way to, and it kind of segues into this, like the best way to minimize the number of crucial conversations you have in your life is to have a meaningless life.
Ouch. It's not meaningful, meaningless.
Yeah. Like, okay, I want to avoid crucial conversations. Okay, I'll just have a meaningless life. And, they actually say that in the training. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to play small and shrink. And I just feel that this is like the prize, isn't it? This is what the prize for getting the success is, being able to wade into these conversations and have them and then wade through them on the other side stronger. Like, ask you, Pete, when you've sat down and had high stakes conversations with Denise, what's been the feeling afterwards?
I mean, the relationship's improved. We've both felt weights off our shoulders. Even if it's me having the conversation, like, she's probably been feeling it anyway. Yeah, just to, like, everything. Because I've just been sat here quietly listening in, because I'm thinking about actually like all the conversations that I've had to have in the past in like a workplace capacity, and those moments where it's just that horrible feeling in your gut, because you've got to make that call, whether that's to a client or whether that's to one of your team, to have a conversation. But then afterwards, 90% of the time, like, it's in a better place. right, you're going in a better direction. But I was also thinking about, where am I not having these conversations now? And there is one actually to do in the workplace. Not to do you, Ben, don't worry, buddy. I'd have had the conversation with you already if it was. But there is one actually that I'm like, do you know, I just need to have it. And I've just been putting it off. Like, it's in the back of my head, and I'm like, do you know what? It'll wait. I'm not that fussed about it. Like, it'll wait. But actually, like, me doing that is just breaking my own internal promises. It's like a micro internal commitment that I said to myself a couple of weeks ago, and Pete, just get that done. Didn't do it because I know I need to have a chat.
Yeah.
And
I'd
that's been a couple of weeks.
Invite you. Yeah, I'd invite you to have those crucial conversations with me. And I think that's what's going to grow us as a business partnership as well. You know, we've got the third party in this trifecta is Yassine, and Yassine is incredible at doing these. He is like world class.
It's not even like I'm going to have a crucial conversation to him. He's not thinking that. It's like, something's come up and he's saying it right away.
Yeah, and that going back to that lag time, and like,
yeah,
we were talking about the value, the role of a leader is like, you don't always have to be liked for what you are sharing. You just have to be respected. And my gosh, I respect that guy. Like, I don't think I've ever
being the arsehole.
Yeah, I've never respected someone so much in my life. I don't think there's like, he is probably one of the most, I respect him more than so many people that I've met before in my life, because of things like that. You absolutely know where you stand. So I think so let's go into this, because I think there's so much you can glean from this podcast, but let's kind of come back to the main selfish desire I have, that we have from sharing this conversation, is that your life and your growth is on the other side of hard conversations. If you're listening to this podcast today and you've got a hard conversation to have, make the freaking commitment to have it today, and blame us if it goes good, bad, or indifferent. It's just like, I'm calling you to a higher level today to go and have that conversation, because honestly, there isn't a right time. You make the time right. And hopefully what I give you today and what Pete shares with you is A, information, B, insight and action, and just some like reference points for you to have these conversations. So first of all, understanding that literally at the age of 3, we actually start to believe that you frequently have to choose between telling your friend the truth and keeping the friend. So this is like, if there's a hard truth that your friend needs to have, you're instantly assuming, even from the age of 3 and 4, I'll tell you about an experiment they did with this in a second, that we make this assumption that I have to choose between telling the truth and keeping a friend. And that this is what plagues our entire life. That one belief causes us so much mischief in our entire lives. What it is, it's called the fool's choice. I'm either not going to get what I want, or I'm going to hurt the relationship. Now, hard conversations improve relationships. I want to say that again. When we start to change the way that we think about hard conversations, is not things that hurt relationships, that they actually help relationships. That's when your life will change. And that's what I said to Pete before. Even though when he said, I've got a crucial conversation that I need to have in the workplace, my belly went, oh gosh, is that me? And my first kind of impulse was like, oh my gosh, I hope we don't have to have a conversation. But the second part, like, actually in retrospect, I'm like, do you know what? Yeah, let's have these conversations. You know, every single week we have an end of week meeting. Let's put it in there. What crucial things that we need to share with each other at the end of the week. And it's going to improve our relationship, because if you have two people who are constantly withholding what they're really thinking about the other person and feeling, that is going to breed a big problem in the relationship. Have you felt this before, Pete? Any good reference points for this?
27,000 times.
Yeah.
No, like what you just said there, like, you don't have these conversations, and then you just start to, like, in your own mind, get really pissed off at that person, start thinking about them in a negative way, and then it becomes hard for them to be doing anything right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you just, like, it's like a self-deception. It's like you find one fault and you don't do anything about that one fault. And then you find another, and then another, and then another, and then it's just the stories in your head that you talk to yourself about that particular person. Oh, I keep fucking doing that, and I keep doing that, and that just builds, and that's just toxic.
And we think it's something that happens as adults. Like, you know, it's something that we grow into as adults. But with the withholding at the expense of someone's feelings happens as children. We start believing this as children. There's something called the Brownie Experiment, right? And what they did with 3 and 4 year olds, bless him, is they got some normal, like store-bought brownies, and they got some homemade brownies, and they had the taste test, and they asked these kids, they put a shitload of salt in the homemade brownies, like literally loads and loads of salt. You could not, they were absolutely disgusting. And if you just put the Brownie Experiment into YouTube, it's really, really funny, actually, a really good video. And they asked the kids to tell the researcher at the end, and they told the kids that the researcher had homemade these brownies, and these children lied. They lied about liking the brownies. I'm not going to go talk all the way through the experiment, but at the same time, it just demonstrated it's an innate thing that we have as children, that we won't say anything to hurt someone's feelings. And it was, yeah, it's just like they brought money into it as well. And as money gets involved as well, it gets even more heightened. Now, a lot of the crucial conversations you're likely to have is when money's involved. High stakes relationships, employee conversations with customers about money. So then all of a sudden there's so many forces acting upon how we actually show up in these conversations that things start to get a little bit murky, emotions start to run high, and then stakes run high as well. So not only do I risk losing my money, I risk being humiliated, or I risk breaking this relationship, or I risk losing face, So what we've got to be mindful of is hard conversations as something that it's not something that we inherently are poor at it's because of us. Kids, like genuine kids, before they've had even the layers of information and self-actualization and the development to the age of 7, they already lie to stop someone's feelings being hurt at the age of 3 and 4. So this is really important to acknowledge. So if you're this person says, "Oh, I'm special. I really struggle with hard conversations," so does everyone. It's a learned behavior, and it's something that we all learn and we have to unlearn in order to achieve and succeed. So if you're listening to this and you've got an impossible goal, you can't use that excuse anymore, that I significantly have this own problem that's mine and my own and no one else has it. It's like, no. Most people have that struggle, that they find hard conversations very painful.
Yeah, I'm going to go into an example here. And this actually cost me personally, and cost the business that I run or used to run, a lot of money, maybe up to $500,000.
Oh. I was going to say, wow. Yeah, wowzers.
Yeah, no, and not to mention like the time and so on that went into this relationship. So like we hired someone, and it was a management role, so it was like a head role, and the expectation on that role was also like business development, to bring in work, which is pretty normal for that particular role in that particular industry that we're in. And it just wasn't happening. Like the business development wasn't happening at all. And if I think back to that, like I did have some crucial conversations around like, why is this not happening? Like with this particular person, why is this not happening? This needs to happen. But if I'm really, really honest with myself, I wasn't anywhere near as forceful as I needed to be as the owner of the business, right? And I just let it slip far too many times. So, it'll be okay. Like they'll pick it up next week, or they'll pick it up the week after, which is the next things, right? Like whilst I go off on this quick tangent, like when we have these crucial conversations, the follow-up's really important as well, like to make sure that we're putting boundaries in place, we're putting objectives in place. So like these are the things that need to happen next, and then to make sure that they actually happen. So there's like a follow-up of other crucial conversations, especially when the stakes are super high, right? So in this particular scenario, the stakes were high because my expectation was this particular person was going to bring in X amount of revenue, right? Because other candidates probably would have brought in that revenue, and then they didn't, right? So not only did it cost us, increase in revenue, it also cost us our output in expenses for this particular person and our time and so on, all because I wasn't forceful enough in the crucial conversations that I was having. Like they weren't crucial enough, and they weren't often enough, right, for it to really make an impact. And then here's the next thing I did. Because this person was absolutely lovely. I loved them, right? Because there's certain aspects of their role they were fantastic at, beautiful person, inside and out. I let it go on for too long. I let that that lag time that Ben talked about, I let that go on for 6 months, right? Far, far too long. So when the time came for me to have the final crucial conversation where I was letting that person go, which is a crucial conversation, I had to get it done, and it was horrible. That gut feeling I had. Oh, it was disgusting. It was in my gut. It was in my heart. It was in my head. It was everywhere, all over my body. I felt horrendous. You know, they had a family, and you know, I was having to let someone go. So it's a horrendous experience letting people go, especially when you like them. Right? Had to do it. It was the right decision. And after doing that, company performance improved, and so on. Right? But I let it go on for far too long. Right? Which ended up costing us substantial amounts of revenue, but it was like the knock-on effect to the team and the culture, because they could see me as a leader letting things slip because they were a nice person. And that then trickled down like, oh, right, how's Pete's leadership skills coming on? Like, if he's allowing that to happen, right, is he the leader we thought he was? So it's like that knock-on effect is absolutely humongous. So it's like, we need to have these conversations quicker, and we need to be forceful with them, and we need to follow them up. And if it's not working, we need to reduce that lag time.
Yeah, that's it. I bet if you're listening to this, if you've got in your mind a hard conversation that you need to have, it's weighing on you. Listen, if you sat in the car, I can guarantee you've been thinking about it. Listen to this. I can guarantee that the reason that you haven't had it is fear. I can guarantee that you care about the person. You care about the person, that you care about their feelings. You care about how they're going to respond. You're maybe more fearful of the feeling of the fear than the actual conversation itself. That's what's actually stopping you. And you're waiting for this right time. And that's it. That's the thing. You know, Pete mentioned it, the lag time. And that lag time, you know, Pete said, there was like, it's your gut saying this isn't right. And then you start going, oh, tomorrow, next week. Okay, yeah, a little bit of good work. And they do something that maybe exonerates them from what you need to have that conversation about. But sometimes it's a totally separate thing. So, for example, with your partner, you know, things haven't been going well in your relationship, but she goes and buys a holiday for you two to go on. And then all of a sudden, that's exonerated from the actual crucial conversation about the state of the house. So sometimes it's being very clear about the same versus separate. And some things aren't the same. You know, that your relationship, I have a lot of crucial conversations in my relationship. And the more we have them, the better the relationships get. They're not conflict. And I actually said this to Poppy the other day. And she said, yeah, we don't have to have conflict though. We can have a conversation. We can do this. You're looking for conflict because you've never had it before. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Actually, yeah, we can have just more frequent good conversations. So let's just really get clear on what is a hard conversation. So a difference in opinion. So you're looking for a difference in opinion. They're likely to not agree with you. The stakes are high. So we're looking at, like, could it be money? It could be self-image. It could be confidence. It could be a legal side to it. And then emotions are running high. You're likely to feel anger. You're likely to feel hate. You're likely to feel, and that this is the nature of those, that human beings in these states act at their worst. And this is this inherent thing we're working against, is that hard conversations are made even harder by the fact that when we engage with that other person, we bring our worst shit. It's just like, you're like, I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I just threw this back in your face. I can't believe I just come up with that. And we've all had it. When you're having an argument with your partner and you say something, you're like, why? Oh my gosh, I've just thrown a whole gallon of fuel on the fire here. And inevitably, what we're trying to do is create, and this is a really important word, create an environment where it's safe to have these really high stakes conversations. And this is what I'm going to invite you to do, is like, look at it like, I just want to create a really, really safe environment where I can share, they can share, and we can come together and actually look at a way forward. So what do these conversations look like? Like, ending a relationship is one. That's a really crucial conversation. If you know you had to finish it with a partner, these things go on for a long time. You know, it's a not healthy relationship. You're not being served. They're not being served. You're not good together, but it's got toxic. That needs a crucial conversation. Giving someone critical but necessary feedback. I love that. I thrive on that. When someone gives me critical but necessary feedback, I love it. And it's often who you're being when you give that feedback.
Yeah, and just like I was thinking, when you said that, I thought back to another workplace scenario where I've had to give feedback. I got so much better than this, like way, way better than I used to be at this. And actually, like, we spoke about this book a number of times, but Radical Candor by Kim Scott really, really helped helped me get a lot better than this at just having these conversations. But I remember back to just one of the other guys that used to work in the team, and I had to give him disciplinary on a number of times, and in the end I let him go. But I got better at having these conversations quicker, but I remember having one particular conversation where I had to give him a discipline. However, I'd left it like 2 weeks, right, for when the incident happened, and it just wasn't potent. It wasn't as potent as it would have been if I'd just done that there and then, like the same day or the following day when that person's in the office. But because I'd toyed around with it for a couple of weeks and trying to figure out the best way to do it, and it was like, what, that thing a couple of weeks ago? Oh yeah, sorry, Pete. Oh, that won't happen again, mate.
Yeah, it's
right.
like,
and I was
like,
oh, really?
The way that I see that, it's like Thor, Pete's dog, making a mess on the living room carpet, and then you actually discipline him 2 weeks later. It'd be like, what the hell?
That's a great way. Yeah. Thor has a shit on the floor. I'd send him off 2 weeks later for it. I love that analogy. Right, that's the new awakened analogy, guys. If this is happening in your workplace, we had this on one of our guys. He's got a small team. He's got 3 or 4 people that are in his team. This is like a month or so ago. Came on the hot seat with us, and he was talking about this issue that's going on with one of his team members. And he was like, "I know I need to sort it. I'm going to talk to them in a week. I'm going to have a meet up with them in a week's time." We're like, "No, you're not, buddy. You're going to do this today." Right? You're going to do this today, and then you're going to report back to us how, like, what's happened. And he did. He went ahead and did it. And the feedback from him was, "So glad I didn't leave it another week. Actually things would have got worse. Like, and it could have been detriment to his clients if he'd left it another week. And now the relationship with that particular employee is a whole lot better because he nipped it in the bud really, really quickly. So don't let Thor shit on the floor and then you leave it
to punish him for 2 weeks.
Him off for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's true.
Remember that, guys.
Yeah, it's so just kind of this is coming. I want to share this before because I don't want to lose it. One of the men who's on our program, he is amazing client. He's got a successful business. He's just opened another one. He's doing really well. He's fearless. But he's not fearless. He just pushes into fear. And one of the things that he learned on the first year of working with us, because we go into this a lot, we talk about hard conversations. We help people have them. We give them the script and scaffolding. We create the environments for that. Is that there was a crucial conversation that needed to be had in his family where his mother and her brother had fallen out. It meant that their family home, their parents' family home hadn't been sold. There was an issue. And this had gone on for like 10, 15 years, this feud, because they weren't willing to have the crucial conversation. And the man in question facilitated this crucial conversation. He learned this stuff and he was like, oh my gosh, I've got enough to confidently mediate this conversation. And it's crazy how this happened. But one of the reasons that he made a lot of money from our program, not just in his business and his new coaching business, but in inheritance income. Now, it wasn't his goal. It was absolutely, I want to know, in case that anyone who knows him is listening to this podcast, it was not his goal. His goal was just to get a relationship built back between his mum and her brother. And that was his goal. And what it led to is that there was a change in the family. They had this crucial conversation. The house was sold and the kids got some inheritance income. So he got a bonus from having that conversation. It was like a serendipitous bonus for something that he was doing. Now, having the skills to have these hard conversations not only benefits you, but it benefits the people around you, because this is what an awakened man does. He is the leading soul force of his family. He's the guy that's able to really, really step into his king energy and have these types of conversations with people, because that is what he does. He is a king. And so when you're not having these hard conversations, what we would call it is like weakling prince. You're stepping out of your king energy into weakling prince. It's like shirking away from responsibility. And as the man, even ladies listening to this podcast, we do have a few ladies listening in. If you're going to access your sovereign energy, sometimes it's stepping into that sovereign energy saying, I'm going to have this hard conversation, because it's like, as Jocko Willink says in Extreme Ownership, it's leading up the chain sometimes. So whether you're ending a relationship, giving someone feedback, confronting a coworker about something they did, challenging your partner about your relationship, you've got to be the owner in your life when you do and have these hard conversations. The opposite of the owner is the victim. Now,
I want to jump in here because this is because I keep using this. Yazine We had a call a couple of weeks ago where Yazine hosted the call, and it was on victim versus ownership. And I loved it when he says, "Are you speaking ownish or victimese?" And I keep thinking about it. It's like when the thoughts are in my head or when I need to have a conversation, am I being a victim or am I taking ownership? Am I speaking victimese or am I speaking ownish?
Yeah, even when I came on our call today, before we do the podcast, I just said to Pete, I was like, "Hey man, listen, I'm really struggling, just trying to get in my stride." And I was actually really conscious that I wasn't being a victim. I was like, I'm just in this, and I was owning the situation, and I was coming up with solutions. I wasn't like, "Oh, I can't do my work, I haven't got this done." I'd literally prepped for this podcast. So does Pete, and I'd got 80% of the work done, and I had to do it like any which way I could, instead of having my usual quality of 1 or 2 hours in the morning. And I've done a lot of work. I wanted to have it finished, but it was like 80% done, and it was just like really making sure that I made the time instead of waiting for the time. Like I had to take the time out of our data. So you got to it actually pertains to the next point, is like that these, like, even these crucial conversations are not planned strategic meetings with your spouse or your business partner. They're going to come up in the moment. Now, like when I was on my angry cycle on Sunday, I didn't go back and say, I'm going to have this conversation with Poppy. I just walked in through the door. I saw her in the kitchen and I just said, "Hey babe, I'm so angry. I'm so angry." And she turned towards me and I just said, "I'm full of anger." And she looked at me, and she knows now that it's safe. She sat down opposite me and because her tears were welling up in her eyes. I just shared my anger with her, which was really powerful. I didn't fucking plan that. It's like, I didn't plan that conversation, but it came out as it did. And that was really powerful in itself, because it segued into a crucial conversation. Now, this is what you've got to really get over. It's not, "Hey, we're going to have a conversation at 10 o'clock on Friday." You're likely to wade into these when you're unsure and you're like, "Oh, this is a crucial conversation." And like when I sat down on Sunday, we were into this conversation, like, "Oh, this is a crucial conversation." It wasn't until she was emotional, I was calm and sharing, that I realized how a crucial, a hard conversation that was. So don't be thinking this is something you put in your calendar and you prep for. You can, by listening to this and what we're sharing, it might give you the confidence and the courage to go and have it. But equally, it's a really important distinction to make. These are not planned strategic meetings. So what happens when we don't have them? That's what they look like. What happens when we don't have them is we make the fool's choice. We make the fool's choice, which is, I'm either going to break this relationship or not get what I want. So therefore, we default to silence or violence, meaning we go passive aggressive, we huff and puff, roll our eyes, which further damages the relationship. And I might be saying to Pete, it's like, "Pete, you off with me, buddy. It's fine. It's all right. It's good. Fine." He sounds like a diva, but you can just feel it. It's like, "What's up? What's going on?" And, "Oh no, it's fine." You all know that with your partner, that experience. Like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they say it's fine, which means it's not. And then the problem perpetuates, and then it starts to, what I call, metastasize. It leaks into other problems like a cancer. So, for example, Pete wants to have a crucial conversation with me about some work that hasn't been finished, and he leaves it go. And then I drop the button somewhere else. And then that 1 out of 10 problem becomes a 10 out of 10 problem, even though it was a 1 out of 10 problem. But he snaps at me about that 1 out of 10 problem like it's a 10 out of 10, but it wasn't the real issue. So I'm actually confused about what's going on now. And then what happens is we end up with this whole relationship issue, which actually can be boiled down to the point where we should have had a conversation that we didn't have.
Yeah. I was just thinking back to that book, Leadership and Self-Deception. If you haven't, I know we've mentioned about 27 books on this podcast, like just today. It is a phenomenal read. It's an intense read. I had to read it and then I listened to it like a few times. It's like a book that you probably get into like once a year just to refresh your brain. But I always remember this one story, and it always sticks with me when I know that I'm holding back on something that I should be doing. And it's this story about the main character in the book, and he's in bed with his wife and they've got a newborn baby. He's been at work all day. He's had a hard day's work, and his wife isn't working because she's looking after the baby, and gets in bed trying to go to sleep, and the baby starts crying, right? He has two choices. He can get out of bed immediately because his wife's been looking after the baby all day and is also tired, and just go and see to the baby and stop them crying and then go back to bed. Or he can lay in bed and then see what happens next. right? So he chooses the second option, lays in bed and see what happens next. To see what he's waiting for is his wife to get out of bed so she can go and deal with the baby, because he's been at work all day. He's had a tough day, and he's got a lot on. He's providing financially for the family, right? So he's feeling that he doesn't need to get out of bed. Like, his wife can go and do that, but she doesn't get out of bed because she's tired and she's falling asleep. So he goes from thinking, well, actually, like, why isn't she getting out of bed? Like, I've been at work all day. This is her role to go and do this. And actually, whilst I think about it, she hasn't kept the house tidy either. Like, I've come in from work, right? The house is an absolute state, right? The dishwasher wasn't done, and so on wasn't done. And as it happens, like, I'm getting pretty pissed off with the way that she's acting. Like, I'm at work 10 hours a day, providing for the family, and I don't really feel that she appreciates me doing this, right? And the house is a tip, right? And now that I'm trying to get to sleep, because I've got to get up at 6 a.m. to go to work again, she's now not getting out of bed. She's actually not that, if I think about it, she's not that great a wife. like now I'm really, like, she's been pissing me off for a good 6 months now. Like, she's not meeting my demands as a man, right? She doesn't even look after herself that well. Like, she doesn't put makeup on. She doesn't dress up. She's in her jogging bottoms all day. I'm going to stop, right? But you see where that story went? Like, that there is the self-deception part, is where we had two choices right at the very start. Like, he had a choice. He could have just got out of bed, tended to the baby, and then got straight back in bed and then went to sleep, right? But didn't. Sat or laid and stewed on it, and then one thought went to the next thought, to the next thought, to the next, to the next, and in the end, his wife is the worst person on this living planet, all in the space of 10 minutes.
Well, actually, yeah, you ended up in contempt there. Like, remember there was a therapeutic session that Yassine did with me, and we were talking about contempt, about something I said about a person, and he said that's the worst thing that you could be. That's the worst place you could be with that in that relationship right now. You're in contempt, which is where you see yourself at a higher level. You're looking down on that person, so you are holding that person in contempt. And I was like, oh, and I saw it, and I was like, because the way that they were operating, I was like, that's disgusting, or that's not right, or that's not cool. And I was seeing myself at a higher level. And he said, well, actually, now you've put that person in contempt. And I was like, oh. And if you listen to John Gottman's work, so John Gottman, famous for like the 7 keys to make marriages work, really, really good relationship expert. He said that is one of the big canaries in the mine. I always say that your relationship is not in a good place if you're looking down in disgust, or you're holding at a person at a lower level than you, and that you should not have that in a marriage. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was really lucky I caught that, and it was really helpful to see that. And so, yeah, people sharing there is like, when you don't have these conversations, you end up, and I've heard it with the men that I've worked with and the women that I work with, when they are constantly not having these conversations, they do start to resent, which leads to more insipid emotions about their partner, which means that they end up resenting them, holding them in contempt, and the relationship breaks down. So yeah, really, you remembered that really well. I remember as you going through that, I was like,
it stuck with me so hard. I read this book many years ago. Right, I'm actually due to reread it again. I need to refresh that because it's so good. But that particular story stuck with me because it just made me catch myself in those moments where I'm not having those conversations. Or I'm lying there waiting for my missus to get up when I should be doing something. And I'm not perfect at this. There's still times, right, where I lie there, right, waiting for the missus to get up. Remember that. And I'm like, oh God, do you know what? I'm just going to nip this now. I'm going to do the right thing. And that's not going to then lead to resentment and negative thoughts and toxicity running through my body and brain towards the other person.
Tony Robbins said it really well. Kill the monster while it's a baby.
Yeah.
It's just like, love that saying. And that's like, that's the point, is that we do a disservice to the person we often care about most when we don't have these conversations. So what I want to get into now is like the actual, like, what's the pattern? So there's a pattern for good conversations. There's a pattern. So this is like an overview of a crucial conversation, hard conversation. Now, I'm going to give you some steps. Now, this is a surface level of something that I teach in real depth on our program, on the Awaken Man program. We teach it to to all our men in our mastermind and our Impossible Goal program, because it is essential as they go into the program, because they're going to go from not taking much action or taking action or avoiding or fear to breaking through that in order to achieve a 90-day target. It's like what I promise to these men is that they'll do their annual revenue in 90 days. And if you're a man listening to this and this is something you're interested in, just drop us a message. Go onto the Awaken Man program, go onto the www.awakenman.org and get in touch with us and share that you're listening to this. Like, as you're going through a 90-day process that helps you achieve big goals like your annual income in 90 days, what happens is you're going to have these conversations. So what I want to give you, this is what I want to be of service to you today, and give you a pattern that you can use to have a crucial conversation today. No, going back to the invitation at the start of the call, listen to this, go and get some confidence, go and have a crucial conversation, hard conversation, and then see what happens. I think that your life will change. So Pete, feel free to interrupt as I'm going through, because I'm going to teaching mode. Step 1 is state your goal for the conversation. You start with heart. And this is where you've got to be very, very good at identifying 3 objects in the conversation. If you listen to this podcast, I'll talk about this a lot, is like your ability to state what you want for you, what you want for them, what you want for the relationship, and state your intention for the conversation. So, because what this does is settles people down. You ever had that text from your partner, "We need to talk"? I have had it from business partners. I've had it from partners. I've had it from friends. And you instantly, because you're naturally negative, people inherently, naturally 9 out of 10 negative bias of the brain, we assume the worst. And then we rehearse the worst. So then when we get into the conversation, we're assuming the worst. We rehearse the worst. So we're all defensive. And when we're defensive, it's not conducive for a positive conversation. So stating your intention for the conversation at the start of the conversation is really important. So it goes a little something like this. "Hey, Pete, I want to have a conversation about the time at which we're having our Friday meeting. It's not working for me. I'm not sure it's working for you. And I think we can have a much better conversation later on in the day. Can we have a quick conversation about this?" And that's not a crucial conversation, but that's just me sharing the scaffolding for the objects. And he's like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. So state your intention for the conversation is really important, because what you want to be able to do is like, hey man, I've got something to share with you. It's going to be really, really difficult for me to share. I want to walk out the other side of the conversation closer to you as a business partner than we started at the start. Yeah, great. He's like, yeah, Ben's sharing this because he wants to push towards me. He doesn't want to push away. Inherently, we've got this thing called the mammalian brain, which is responsible for connection. When it feels that we're going to be disconnected, it applies the brakes. We become illogical, irrational. We become more emotional. So we want to try and guide the brain to stay in logic and creativity. Making sense, Pete?
Makes absolute sense. I'm with you.
So state your goal for the conversation. Start with heart. So really be open and vulnerable. The second thing is we're listening for the other person's opinion. Now, this is the hard part, I think, that people are most afraid of, is hearing what they possibly are fearful of hearing about themselves, because we have to listen for the other person's opinion for them to be heard. We did a communication mistakes podcast, and it's about listening for the other person and validating that they're not wrong to feel as they do. So say I had been really underperforming at work, and Pete said, "Man, we need to have a crucial conversation. I think you're really underperforming," and and he gave me all these reasons about why I was underperforming. I was like, I absolutely am underperforming, and these are the reasons I feel like I've been underperforming. And if he didn't listen to that, I'm going to get pissed. No, I don't care about that. That's what often people say. No, I don't care about that. You need to step it up. I'm like, okay, great. Well, you haven't listened to me, so I'm naturally defensive now. I'm not going to have this really is not going to be a conducive conversation. So state your goal for the conversation, then listen to the other person's opinion. This is the part now where we need to get into facts, not emotions. It's that we're looking for objective facts, where very, very, we're looking for really, really, really clear facts that are they're not opinions about whether something was done or not to a standard. It's just that it wasn't done. So Ben, we'll use this podcast today. Ben, you said you were going to finish the document by 9:00 on Thursday morning, and it's not finished. I can't disagree with that. Yeah, I actually have finished it. But it's just like at the same time, it's like, but the thing is, right, is it's a fact. I can't disagree with that. So we're looking for, when you go into these conversations, like try and stick to the facts. This is really, really difficult. This is probably the part, like I'll share this with you. When I first learned about crucial conversations, hard conversations, having them, it's taken me about 10 years to get to the point where I'm better than ever. It's not an overnight fix, but having more of them certainly helps this. So stick to the emotions, stick to the facts, not the emotions. Look for the overlap. So look, this is where we say, listen, Pete might say to me, or I might say to Pete, man, we're on the same team here. So don't feel like I'm trying to score points against you, because you're not trying to discredit the other person. You're not going to make them feel bad. That is where most people mess up hard conversations. They try to win the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's quite nice, actually, that what you've just said there. I'm not trying to score points against you. A lot of people can use that terminology,
Yeah, this is what, this is the
relationships.
scaffolding. Yeah, this is the real scaffolding. It's like,
it puts the barriers down, and like it's like allows them to go, oh, right, he's not trying to punch me in the face here. I'm just going to put my guard down.
Yeah, most people in the workplace have experienced this, is that they've had a boss, a manager, a co-worker. The only way that they feel that they can, they feel like they're in a competition with them. They're trying to win. They're trying to discredit them. They're trying to make them feel bad. They're trying to undermine them. And that's what so many problems in the workplace come from. So we're on the same team. You need to know this. I care about you. I think there's a way forward. We just need to work together. You want to get the work done. I need it done because it makes it so much easier when we're running this podcast, Ben, if I've got the document beforehand. And let's look at for a better way. Let's get in the trenches together. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he's on my side here. So we look for an overlap, and then we look for the path to actually make it work. Right, okay, how are we going to work together on this? Well, do you know what? I'll text you the night before. I'm asking for the document. You send it to me then. Brilliant. Okay, yeah, I just need that reminder. If I know I'm going to get that reminder, I'll have it to you by then, no problem. And then finally, this is where most people think that they've finished the work, but you're 90% done, but the 10% is the most important part. It's like a sales call. I remember, Pete and I did sales training with a really, 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 really amazing sales trainer over the last couple of months. And most of my sales calls were 99 or 95% good. It was the last 5% in the close where I experienced the most problems. And this was the most important part, because that's the part where you talk about money and people doing business with you. It's exactly the same with a crucial conversation. It's just like, this is where we create an agreement, who does what by when. Yeah. And even if it's a follow-up. So who does what by when? It's a clear agreement. We're both involved, and it goes in the calendar. There's an agreement. There's something that comes out of this where you revisit it to check in afterwards. That is so important, and it's the most commonly overlooked part.
Yeah. And that bit there, at the start of this podcast, when I talked about that scenario where I had that team member cost us a lot of money, it's that agreement part, and then it's the follow-up, right? It's then just the follow-up to make sure that is happening, like that it is going to happen. It wasn't just a conversation for the hell of it, and then we're just going to move on and nothing's going to go on. All right. So just to recap, like those steps. So step 1, state your goal for the conversation. Step 2, listen to the other person's opinion. So listen being the key bit there. Step 3, stick to the facts, no emotions. Step 4, look for the overlap and then the path. So look for where you can be a team together. And then step 5, create the agreement.
Yeah, and that's a very, very chunked up summary. We can go a mile deep on all of those parts, but all that does is give you just this nuanced level of confidence. But if you just follow that sequence, you're going to have much better conversations, crucial conversations. So just a couple of things to finish before we wrap this up is that, remember, you don't have to win. See the bigger picture, and address the 3 objects in the conversation. And remember, winning might actually mean losing or harming the relationship in the first place. So you're not going in this to win. You're on the same team. Sometimes we have this internal authority balance. Like, I am leading someone. I am above them in this relationship. Like, I am the leader. You are the executor. And like that can happen with a staff member. I am a boss. You're a staff member. But when we're having a lot of these conversations, we want to be grounded on a level playing field. We're in this together. And so, doing things like avoiding trying to get the upper hand by discrediting the other person is huge. You create huge amounts of safety, because people will inherently listen way more when they feel safe, and they will act way better when they feel safe. And then when you do this, when you create safety by being slow, not being critical, slowing down and really getting to the heart of the issue and getting the facts on the table, people change. So hopefully this has given you a real great insight into how to have a hard conversation. Coming back to again, I'm going to keep revisiting this statement. You didn't listen to this podcast today because you wanted information. You wanted transformation. You wanted to go and take action on something that you know is eking at you. It's literally, there's a hard conversation that needs to be had. Have it today. You're going to feel way, way better for having it. Blame us for if it goes well, if it goes badly, if it goes indifferently. If you lose loads of money, we're not liable.
No, we're not.
We're fully insured and for the people that invest in our programs, but at the same time we are not liable for any conversations that lead to money exchange, money loss, death. This is an educational podcast. At the same time, I am inviting you to go and have that conversation, because from a man to strong woman, it's going to change your life. And I can honestly say that I've worked with a lot of clients this year and we've helped them go into these conversations, and it's caused nothing but positive moves forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've just on document that there's a couple of questions that have been listed out, which might be good for you guys to think about, whether you're in the car listening to this and you're going to have a think about it, or whether you're actually at a place where you can write some things down and you want to just pause and write. These questions are pretty good. So there's 5 questions here to think about. So what is it that you fear about having crucial conversations? Right. So what's the fear? And there's a couple of follow-up questions that will help, like maybe pinpoint what that fear is. So question number 1 here: the reasons I avoid them are.
I'll answer them as you go through. The reason because I'm not used to having them. I feel that they're going to break the relationship. I feel, why wreck a happy moment?
Nice.
Yeah.
Next, start question number 2. My experiences of them are.
The start of my 20s, very negative, getting better.
Okay, next. They don't happen because.
They don't happen because I haven't created I haven't created them. That's it. That's the only reason. They haven't happened. They don't happen because they don't happen.
What I really fear is
Poppy leaving me, or Pete saying, that's it, I'm done. Or my client asking for a refund.
Okay. And then the last one, and the fear behind the fear is.
Oof, that's hard. That's a tough one. The fear behind that fear is, losing really great relationships in my life. And it's actually it's so ridiculous. Even saying that out loud is like, having these conversations does the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. So, go through those questions. If you need to rewind and then pause and go through it, because it's just like, it's the awareness part, which is really powerful, to be like, I'm aware now of crucial conversations, and now I'm aware of where some of my fears might be in my experience with these conversations in the past. And okay, now get out and do it.
Thank you for listening in. Before we go today, I just want to share with you that we recently have started our 90-day impossible challenge for men who are looking to step it up and create their annual income in the next 90 days. Now, we are very confident that we can help you achieve this. If you're a high-performing man who is perhaps underperforming a little bit in his life, and you know that you're not being held to your highest standard, we've got a group of entrepreneurs, business owners, fathers, guys who are looking to support one another in helping them achieve what's the seemingly impossible. Now, it's more special than I can actually go through. I could talk about this all day, but the power is in the group, of having a group of men who are in your corner every single day, accompanied with this high level information that is going to help support you and help you get to the next level of your business, of your relationship, push through these things. Because like these hard conversations, if you have a group of people you can be accountable to, and you say that you're going to go and do it, and then you know that you've made that commitment, things happen so much quicker. The pressure, the positive pressure you put on yourself happens so much faster. And what we've seen already is guys in the first week making their investments back, making way more sales, making way more proposals, doing things in the business they've been putting off. I literally got off the phone with a guy yesterday. He said, I'm actually going to downsize my unit from 2 to 1, and that will save me gosh, like 4 or 5K a month. And I was like, so he's just made 4 to 5 grand by downsizing and being able to cope with that. So just one conversation means that he's going to be growing because he's been putting off having that conversation for months. So like literally these are the sort of things. So we're helping. So it's not just all about sales. It's about running your business more effectively, looking at conversations like these hard conversations that need to be had and having them. And like, you know, as if by magic, things do really shift in a short space of time. So if you're interested in this and you feel that just finding out a little bit more is something that you'd like to know, all you need to do is go into www.awakenedman.org. There's a contact form, isn't there, on there, Pete?
There's a contact form on there. There's a really easy like application form right on the homepage. You click on that. There's about 5 or 6 questions, fill that in, and then the whole Awaken team get alerted, and then we can be in contact. We've got a document that spells out all the details of this particular program, Awaken Man Impossible. It's called Awaken Man Impossible 90. We've got a document that details out all that information. So if you do something like that, go to the website or message us on Instagram, or go to our Facebook group, send a message in there. One of the team or myself will reach out and we'll give you the details in the document.
Yeah, just write the word impossible.
Yeah,
Make
yeah,
it
it's
easy.
quite word impossible. We know what it is.
Yeah, but honestly, thank you so much for listening today. Closing in, go and have that conversation. Feel free to share this podcast with your friends if you think it will help. Share it with your spouse, like get your partner to listen to this if you're a lady, get your man to listen to this. We've got quite a few lady listeners and they say they love what we do. We obviously speak to men, but at the same time is that this is going to be like a secret weapon for you ladies in the workplace if you're learning the stuff that we're going to be sharing over the next couple of months. Thank you so much for listening in, and we'll see you on the next podcast.